Most retirees judge their financial success the wrong way. They look at net worth, they compare account balances, they ask whether they have enough. But that's not how financial security actually shows up in retirement. In reality, the retirees who are truly ahead don't always look richer. They look calmer. They make decisions without panic. They don't react emotionally to headlines. They don't quietly stress about the next decade. And the reason isn't luck. It's because they've already crossed invisible thresholds that most retirees never reach. If you recognize even a few of the signs in this video, you're likely far ahead of where you think you are. Not ahead in status, ahead in survival. Let's start with the most important sign, and the one almost no one talks about. You don't need your portfolio to perform perfectly. Most retirees believe their plan only works if markets cooperate, if returns stay strong, if nothing goes wrong. If that's you, you're not ahead yet. Retirees who are truly ahead have something different: margin. They can absorb bad years without rewriting their entire lifestyle. A down market doesn't threaten their identity. It doesn't force rushed decisions. It doesn't push them into fear-driven moves. They've built a plan that assumes imperfection. And that alone puts them ahead of most people. Because retirement doesn't fail from one bad year. It fails from reacting badly to several normal ones. If you can sit through volatility without changing your behavior, you're already winning. Here's another sign that matters more than net worth. You know your real monthly number. Not an estimate, not a guess. The actual amount you need to live the life you're living right now. Most retirees don't know this. They know what they spend in busy months. They know what they spend during emergencies. But they don't know their true baseline. Retirees who are ahead have clarity. They know which expenses are fixed, which are flexible, which are optional. That clarity gives them power, because when something changes, they know exactly what to adjust first. No panic, no guessing, just decisions. If you know your real number, you're ahead of the majority who are still operating on vague assumptions. Now let's talk about a sign that feels small but changes everything. You don't increase spending just because you can. Most retirees think financial progress means upgrading comfort whenever possible. But retirees who are ahead do something counterintuitive. They let lifestyle lag behind capacity. They don't rush to match spending with portfolio growth. They don't normalize higher costs just because the money is there. They protect flexibility. This doesn't mean living cheaply. It means living intentionally. They understand something most people miss. Once a higher lifestyle becomes normal, it's emotionally expensive to reverse, so they delay that normalization as long as possible. If you've resisted lifestyle inflation, even when you could afford it, you're already ahead. Here's a sign that often surprises people. You're more concerned with downside than upside. Most retirees focus on growth. They chase returns. They worry about missing out. Retirees who are ahead worry about something else. They worry about not running out. They design their plan to survive disappointment, not maximize excitement. They don't need every year to be great. They just need most years to be acceptable. This mindset changes everything. It leads to steadier decisions, lower stress, better sleep. If protecting the downside matters more than beating the market, you're thinking like someone who lasts. Now let's talk about time, not money. You don't feel rushed to enjoy it all now. A lot of retirees feel pressure the moment work ends. Pressure to travel immediately. Pressure to spend while they're healthy. Pressure to front-load experiences. Some of that makes sense, but retirees who are ahead don't act with urgency. They act from pacing. They understand retirement is not a short victory lap. It's a long season. They don't compress decades into a few aggressive years. They spread enjoyment out. They leave room for later life. If you don't feel like you're racing against the clock, you're ahead of most people who burn too hot too fast. Here's another sign that's uncomfortable but important. You're willing to say no without explaining yourself. Most retirees struggle with this. They feel obligated. They feel pressure to participate. They feel the need to justify boundaries. Retirees who are ahead don't over-explain. They understand that every yes has a cost, not just in money, in energy, in flexibility. They protect their plan quietly. If you can say no without guilt, you're protecting something valuable. Now let's shift to something internal. You don't need constant reassurance that you're doing okay. Many retirees seek validation. They compare themselves to others. They check averages. They look for confirmation that they're safe. Retirees who are ahead rely less on comparison. They trust their process. They've done the thinking, they've run the numbers, they've built buffers. They don't need external comfort every time the market moves. If you don't constantly seek reassurance, it's because you've earned confidence through preparation. That's real security. Here's a subtle sign most people overlook. You can explain your plan in simple terms, not with jargon, not with complexity, just a clear explanation of how money flows, where income comes from, and how risks are handled. Retirees who are behind often hide behind complexity. Retirees who are ahead understand simplicity. If you can explain your plan clearly, you're not guessing, you're managing, and that's a huge advantage. Now let's talk about stress. You don't constantly think about money. This doesn't mean you never think about it. It means money isn't occupying your emotional space all day. You're not checking accounts compulsively. You're not reacting to every headline. You're not replaying what-if scenarios constantly. Retirees who are ahead have containment. They've limited how much mental energy money consumes. That frees them to enjoy time, relationships, and health. If money doesn't dominate your thoughts, that's not luck, that's the structure working. Here's the last sign for this part, and it's one of the strongest. You have options. Not perfect options, not unlimited ones, but real choices. You could spend less if you needed to. You could move if it made sense. You could adjust without everything collapsing. Most retirees don't lack money, they lack options. If you have room to maneuver, you're ahead. Because retirement isn't about avoiding change, it's about being able to respond to it. Many of the strongest signs you're financially ahead in retirement don't look like money at all. They show up in behavior, in calmness, in restraint. And that's why most people miss them. Let's start with a sign that feels almost boring, but predicts everything. You don't constantly change your plan. Most retirees tinker. They react to news. They chase trends. They adjust allocations based on fear or excitement. Retirees who are ahead don't do this. They made fewer decisions up front, but better ones. They understand that a mediocre plan followed consistently beats a perfect plan followed emotionally. So they stay put. They review. They rebalance when needed, but they don't reinvent their strategy every year. If you're not constantly second-guessing yourself, you've already separated from the pack. Here's another sign that rarely gets credit. You're comfortable holding cash. Not because you don't want growth, but because you value stability. Most retirees see cash as wasted potential. Retirees who are ahead see it as shock absorption. Cash buys time. Time buys clarity. Clarity prevents mistakes. If you're not fully invested at all times and you're okay with that, you understand something most people don't. Here's a sign that often shocks people when they realize it. You don't rely on a single income source. It doesn't matter if it's pensions, Social Security, dividends, part-time work, or rental income. What matters is diversification of cash flow. Retirees who are behind are vulnerable to one thing going wrong. Retirees who are ahead designed redundancy. They don't need everything to work perfectly. They need at least something to keep working. If your income isn't dependent on one fragile stream, you've reduced risk more than most people ever do. Now let's talk about expectations. You don't expect retirement to be cheap. Many retirees underestimate costs. They assume expenses drop permanently. They plan for best-case scenarios. Retirees who are ahead plan for realism. They expect healthcare to rise. They expect surprises. They expect some years to cost more than others. That expectation prevents disappointment. If you're not shocked when expenses rise, you're ahead of those who planned on optimism alone. Here's a subtle but powerful sign. You don't compare your retirement to others. Comparison is poison in retirement. It pushes people to overspend. It creates unnecessary anxiety. It distorts reality. Retirees who are ahead stop measuring themselves against neighbors, friends, or online averages. They measure against their own plan. If you're not trying to keep up in retirement, you've escaped one of the most dangerous traps. Now let's talk about control. You've separated needs from wants. This sounds basic. It's not. Most retirees think they know the difference, but they don't test it. Retirees who are ahead can quickly reduce spending without emotional collapse. They know which costs are flexible. They've practiced restraint before they needed it. If you can cut back without panic, you've built resilience, and resilience is everything in retirement. Here's another sign that doesn't get enough attention. You review, but you don't obsess. You check your finances at reasonable intervals. You don't ignore them. You don't hover over them. Retirees who are behind swing between avoidance and obsession. Retirees who are ahead maintain rhythm. If your relationship with money feels calm and structured, that's not accidental. Now let's talk about something deeply psychological. You don't see your portfolio as spendable cash. This is huge. Retirees who struggle often treat their nest egg like a bank account. Retirees who are ahead see it as a machine that produces income, a machine that must be maintained. They're cautious about withdrawals. They respect the system. If you feel resistance to dipping into principal unnecessarily, you're thinking long-term. Here's another sign most people never articulate. You're willing to adjust your lifestyle before touching your core assets. This one saves retirements. When things get tight, many retirees pull from investments first. Retirees who are ahead adjust behavior first. They spend less. They simplify. They adapt. If lifestyle flexibility comes before financial depletion, you've built a survival-first mindset. Now let's look at something emotional. You don't attach your self-worth to your money. This is rare. Many retirees tie identity to financial success. They feel shame when things tighten. They feel pride when numbers rise. Retirees who are ahead detach. They see money as a tool, not a scorecard. This emotional distance allows better decisions. If your mood isn't dictated by your account balance, you've achieved something more valuable than returns. Here's the final sign for this part. You've already imagined worst-case scenarios. Not obsessively, not fearfully, practically. You've thought about long-term care, about market downturns, about living longer than expected. And instead of panicking, you planned. Most retirees avoid these thoughts. Retirees who are ahead face them early. If you've looked at uncomfortable possibilities and still feel grounded, you're ahead of most people. If there is one trait that separates retirees who stay financially secure from those who slowly fall behind, it isn't intelligence. It isn't income. It isn't even discipline. It's adaptable. Retirees who are ahead are not the ones with the best-looking plans on paper. They're the ones who can change without breaking. They don't freeze when assumptions fail. They don't panic when reality shifts. They don't cling to outdated expectations. They adjust. And adjustment requires something most people underestimate: emotional stability. This is the final and most important sign you're ahead. You can accept change without feeling like you failed. Many retirees interpret change as loss. If expenses rise, they feel defeated. If they return slowly, they feel betrayed. If plans shift, they feel like something went wrong. Retirees who are ahead see change as part of the system. They expect it. They built their mindset around flexibility, not perfection. That mindset keeps them calm when others spiral, and calm decisions compound. Here's something else retirees who are ahead understand. Retirement is not a finish line, it's a management phase. Once you stop seeing it as an endpoint, everything gets easier. You stop chasing validation, you stop comparing outcomes, you stop trying to prove anything. You focus on sustainability. That shift alone reduces pressure more than any portfolio tweak ever could. Let's talk about how this shows up day to day. Retirees who are ahead make fewer emotional decisions. They don't react to fear-driven headlines. They don't overcorrect after short-term losses. They don't suddenly abandon strategies that worked for years. They pause. They ask better questions. They give themselves time. This patience protects them from the most common retirement mistakes. Now let's close the loop on the title. You don't need to be rich to be ahead. Most retirees will never feel rich, but many could feel secure if they recognized how far ahead they already are. If you have margin, if you have options, if you have clarity, if you have emotional control, you're already ahead of most retirees. Even if your number isn't impressive, even if your lifestyle looks modest, even if you don't talk about it, and that's the final insight. The retirees who were truly ahead don't broadcast it. They don't need to. They're not trying to win comparisons. They're trying to last. They built a system that supports their life quietly. They've removed unnecessary pressure. They've accepted reality instead of fighting it. That's what success looks like in retirement. Not perfection, not luxury. Stability, control, peace. If you recognized yourself in even a few of these signs, that's not an accident. It's the result of decisions you made long before retirement began. And if you didn't recognize yourself yet, that doesn't mean you're behind. It means you know exactly what to build toward. Retirement doesn't reward flash, it rewards preparation. And the people who understand that are always further ahead than they appear.